When did the class clown take it too far? He tried to pants the teacher. I think I've seen this PRN. One time the class clown asked what the teacher's wife, another teacher, was like in bed. It was so goddamn awkward. Better than your mother is the only acceptable answer. My high school class clown made a joke in a dead silent classroom about boning a teacher with another teacher in the room. His situation afterwards wasn't great. Ate a shit ton of notebook paper and ended up going home after he projectile vomited on the goddamn floor. Someone in my year at school, who wanted to be a doctor, drank a bottle of antibacterial hand wash for $5. He did it because there is nothing bad in there, his words. Needless to say, he got his stomach pumped. This one kid thought it would be funny to snort a line of that sour powder. This was no small line, mind you. I actually think he was rubbing it off the candy. Anyways, he does his line and instantly starts screaming. His nose was gushing blood and I honestly think he popped a blood vessel in his eye. Ran out of the room and later saw an ambulance come to the school. Don't do drugs. A friend of mine made gestures of F-king the air in front of what he thought was an older student. Little did he know, it was a very young new teacher. Called our teacher's daughter, whose name is Mia Khalifa. He loaded up PRN on someone's computer while they were in the bathroom. Teacher wasn't paying attention and the victim ended up getting suspended. That wasn't a class clown. That was a classroom hitman. When he yelled I lost my virginity to my dog during a quiet moment in class, every head whipped around to stare in horror. Pulled out a chair from underneath a kid thinking it would be really funny when the kid fell. The kid ended up falling and cracking his head open and getting around 30 stitches. I did this to a kid in middle school and he hit his head on the metal part of the chair. The teacher was like walk him down to the nurse while he was walking slowly and holding his head acting super hurt. I felt like an asshole. Then we got out of the room and he was like aha I'm fine FCKU. He got me. Edit. Look I'm not proud of this but he didn't die. I was 12. When he ate part of the squid we were dissecting. Stomach pump for you. Chuckles. Similar story when I was in middle school. We needed to dissect a perch. We were allowed to pick our own groups. But because I didn't have any friends in the class, I got stuck with the obnoxious kids. One of them had the genius idea of putting his mouth up to the fish's anus and sucking it like a straw. He ended up throwing up. Straight up just peed on the floor in the middle of class and convinced the teacher it was spilled water so he cleaned it up. Honestly not even class clown shitty at that point. Just being a gross dick. Kid was always doing dumb stunts just to make people laugh. He got sick of climbing on in random things and jumping stairs one day and decided it'd be funny to smack into walls. His first few walls were fine as they were all concrete. There was a girl crying in the hallway and he figured he could make her laugh by making a funny face and tackling the glass door. He went through the door and needed stitches, leaving splatters of blood and broken glass on the way to the office. Did it make her laugh? In a high school classroom with a chill teacher, someone made a joke about another kid's dick being small. So, that kid exposed himself in front of the whole class to prove that it was large. He got suspended. When I was in 3rd grade we were all doing our thing. Coloring, reading, etc. The class clown was being really noisy and kept goofing off. We were all having fun and the class clown eventually sat down. It wasn't long before he was laying on the floor, foaming out of his mouth, shaking violently. We all laughed. It was a joke, right? Before long the teacher came rushing over to see the new joke the kid came up with. She immediately called 911 and he was rushed out of the room. He had a seizure while the whole class thought he was joking. He recovered and everything was fine. I just feel bad for the kid. Friend decided to shove his hands into my back pockets and grab my ass. Wasn't wearing a belt. Ended up panting me straight to the floor. I was wearing spandexy type underwear at the time. Caught those on the way down too and ended up like pulling it down to where my dick sprung out of them. What was bad was worse, as our track coach had just walked in looking for me and she got a full frontal. Not to mention the class saw everything as well as I tried to pull my pants up only to realize my dick was out on full display. Didn't even get detention SMH. Big in it. Kid in my band class still thought yo mama jokes were funny. We came back to school for the first time after Hurricane Sandy. And the kid goes to the teacher. I'm a teacher. A female colleague told her class about how she was going to spend the holidays resting in her bed. Kid said loudly, "Can I join?" Silence. He yelled at my English teacher from across the room, "Your puns are more cancerous than." Girl's name. She was terminally ill with cancer and never came back to school after that day. Kid, class clown. In elementary school made fun of a boy no one liked. He was kinda an asshole, but one day the boy said his mom had a miscarriage and the other kid thought it would be a great insult later in the week to tell him something along the lines of, "Your brother is better off dead. It's a good thing your mom had a miscarriage." Don't think we've ever rallied for this asshole kid as hard as we did that day. It was cooking class and decided to pour oil and flour on the stairs. The students ran to the stairs and they all fell. Somebody in my botany class decided to blow up the AC in the room with a firecracker. We had a teacher in middle school who had a wig and a glass eye. We had 3 class clowns that teamed up, and at the end of the year, she left just because of their constant disruptions and bullying. I actually really liked her and always felt bad for her. Was this during the True Wizard tournament? There was a class clown in my class and another one from the senior class at the time. They'd collaborated to throw toilet paper all over the schoolyard as a joke. I forget exactly what it was. But there was some kind of very important event going on that day and we were supposed to have a lot of visitors that afternoon. The principal was not amused. He said if they'd done that on any other day, he'd probably just let it go after making them clean it up. They got detention and one of the teachers made them personally apologize to the elderly janitor who had to clean that shit up in the dark when it was freezing cold. Edit. The janitor found the mess when he'd gotten to school that morning while it was still dark, around 6 AM or so. He started cleaning it up himself. Before anyone knew who did it. The office pulled the footage from the outdoor security cameras later that morning. Because it was such a small school. The most important part of a joke. Timing. My roommate was a class clown type. We had both been out of school for years at this point. One day, I spent the entire day making syrup. It's a long process of letting the ingredients simmer down for hours. But it's a labor of love and I was willing to do it. After I finished the syrup, I put it in the fridge to cool while I got a shower. For some freaking reason, my roommate decided to pour a bunch of hot sauce in my syrup, ruining the whole pot and wasting my entire day. He didn't understand why I didn't find it funny and got pissed when I got mad. Senior year. Teacher wouldn't give her a hall pass to use the bathroom, which was ridiculous. Instead of taking a more conventional stand, like walking out of the room, she sat down in her desk and pissed her pants. She was suspended. I forget for how long. There were editorials back and forth in the school paper. I was on team teachers shouldn't try to control our bowels, but also maybe don't piss on the floor. Though I do appreciate your taking one for the team. When our science teacher went into the lab closet and he blocked the door with a filing cabinet. Then later in the year he got caught as he was about to put baby oil on the floor. Edit. My first year teaching, I had a nightmare student who was absolutely awful. He wanted to be a comedian, but every day was him shouting out profanity, harassing the girls, climbing desks, and so on. He got suspended for a week for pulling his pants down and flashing the girls. If I turned my back for 3 seconds, he'd be at my computer trying to search for PRN. Most of the kids in the class couldn't stand him. He thought he was being funny, but he was acting like an animal. When he torched a classmate with a lighter and EO spray, the guy still has scars from it. Edit. Sorry, I didn't mean torched his whole body. In high school, This kid had to make a video about the concept of chaos. As his example of chaos, he decided to use a political situation in Israel. In his video, he simulated a terrorist bombing where he said Allahu Akbar and then made an explosion noise. Then he called out this one Jewish kid in the class who never talked and he said, "Thank you, person's name, for this wonderful moment." The funny thing is that the teacher played the video in front of the class without previewing it. And then he never punished the student who made the video because he was afraid he would get in trouble for showing it to the class. This kid downed 9 ibuprofens in like 3 minutes because the teacher left the room. He managed to get a headache from it. It wasn't really funny. It was just sad. He farted loudly every single day in Mr. Jensen's social studies class. It got really old. Edit. This was 7th grade middle school. Edit. I lived in Minnesota at the time. I tripped a kid who was running for lunch back when I was in high school. He didn't get back up. Thought he'd broken his leg. Ambulance called. Kid taken away in full view of well over 1,000 plus. Got called out quite rightly for the CNT I'd been. And then, thankfully, comforted by the same kids when I became distraught at the though of what I'd done to this poor kid. After a rather sleepless and guilt-ridden night I found out that he had a dead leg and was fine. 30 years later and I still freak out at what 14-year-old me did. I am so sorry, Tristan. When him and his friend thought that peeing on the stairs would be funny. It wasn't. He got slapped. There was a story here in the UK not so long ago about some kid who was effing around in class and flicking bits of food at people. He threw a bit of cheese at this kid who it turned out had severe allergies and ended up going into anaphylactic shock. School mishandled it quite a bit and the poor kid ended up dying. Not sure if this is exactly a case of the class clown taking it too far. He wasn't to know. But the consequences were dire even so. When he opened a can of tuna and put it in the teacher's bag. This teacher was such a nice lady and only ever tired to help him. Disgusting behavior. I was at an all-state music festival, basically a concert band that students from the entire state auditioned to perform in during high school. And during some downtime between pieces during the rehearsal, the conductor asked if anyone wanted to come up and say a joke into the mic. One of the percussionists raises his hand, walks up, and tells the following joke. What do you call a kid with no friends? A Sandy Hook survivor. I absolutely could not believe what I heard. This was just weeks or maybe a few months after the shooting. I don't remember if anyone laughed. I don't think they did. And he definitely got a stern talking to. When he casually laid down his pee-pee on my armchair to impress my girl best friend who was my seatmate. Big in it? He said with a proud smirk looking at my friend. Bruh. We had a younger, not great looking, substitute teacher and everyone was cracking jokes. The sub yelled at the class and the word disrespectful slipped out. This man had the audacity to tell out bruh your teeth are disrespectful and got sent to the dean and was later suspended. I misread got sent to the dean as got sent to death. Lit a Roman candle on our bus ride home. Cops showed up and he went right out the back door and kept running. Never came back to school. Edit. Wow, didn't think this was gonna blow up. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Edit. To answer some of the questions about this kid, although he was always nice to me, he was a typical tough acting senior. Wore a leather jacket and black combat boots to school every day. If my memory serves me correctly, one of our teachers told us the cops found him hiding in his tree fort. When he took the razor out of a pencil sharpener and threatened to slit the black girl's throat. Teacher wasn't in the room and we were all just staring at him like, what the actual FCK? Man? I never saw him again after that day. The kid got sent to isolation and then challenged the principal to a fight after school to also look good, so he got expelled the next day. In 4th grade, we had a kid who disrupted class all the time because he couldn't keep still. It had snowed and we were walking around the room doing an assignment. The teacher went to the class next door for a minute. This kid ran out the door to the field, right outside the door, made a snowball and threw it in the classroom, hitting a huge light bulb which exploded, sending glass everywhere. Everyone screamed. Teachers came running in. And we never saw that kid again. This was in the 70s, so they probably drugged him up and put him in a different school. When he jumped off the chair and his footing f'd up. Tripped to the hospital for his head. As he slammed it into a desk. He threw a full water bottle as hard as he could, aiming for the substitute teacher's head. It missed her by about 3 inches and exploded all over the blackboard behind her. Most bizarre part is she literally didn't notice. She continues like normal and about 10 minutes later turns around and looks at the board and say, "Oh my gosh. The water's dripping." While in class he pulled out a bag of cocaine. Starting doing lines while laughing, asking the people around him if they wanted some. Everyone looked horrified, including the teacher. She escorted everyone out except him while the principal and school officer was called. To this day I really don't understand how he thought that would make anyone laugh. Puts tack on brother's chair in English class. English teacher is an old, very respectable, straight-laced woman. Brother plops down, jumps straight up and yells, "God damn it." Full stop. Brother sent to detention. In my English class we all tried to be class clowns most of the time. However, the one time my friend took it too far was when at the end of the class, the teacher would go round picking up all the textbooks from each table while we stood waiting. When the teacher came round to collect his textbook, she lifted it up and my friend had unzipped his trousers and put his wanga through and hidden it under the book. She screamed and everyone else was so shocked at the sight of him stood there with his wanga flopped out on the table. But before anyone could say anything, he looks down and pretends to scream in fright as well, as if he did not know what he was looking at, as he lifts his arm up and proceeds to karate chop his own penis in front of my teacher and entire class. The lad got excluded for a day and got put in a new English class. Proceeds to karate chop his own penis. Excuse me, but why? When he shoved tea in a plastic bag and left it in his friend's rucksack. Got away with it too. He wasn't that class clown, but we were in theater and a kid with some mental disorder asked a guy if he liked gay or lesbian people in a presentation. I've never seen a room go so quiet. Then the next morning the teacher had a talk with everyone about how some things were not okay to say in class. TBH, that class was really bad. This isn't part of the question, but we had a guy punch a girl because she came out in front of the class. King Gary. Man. My class clown got dared to propose to our math teacher with a choco stick in the 9th grade. He got suspended. Bruh, we had someone try to ask our chem teacher to prom and she just respond with, "Never, a waste of time." Let's move on to important stuff. LMAO. Suspension for that go? Does after graduation count? If so, probably that time he killed a guy. Kid drank the teacher's goldfish. The teacher, a button-up dude, started crying. The kid threw it back up, but I'm not sure if it survived. Everyone was like, "Damn. Dude. Not okay." Amongst the boys in 5th grade, farting was hilarious. It got old after a bit and he didn't get the reaction he was used to getting, so he thought he'd do the one thing that was sure to get a laugh. He took a dump and spread it across 3 of the bins outside the classroom. Safe to say he didn't sh-tea anywhere other than the toilets after a school-wide assembly was called to point it out. In English class years ago, the teacher was talking about how she is pregnant so she can't eat the food she used to because it's not healthy. The dude then said should have taken it up the ass. She looked disgusted.